Hello and welcome. You're watching Money 9, India's first multilingual platform for personal finance from TV9 News Network. I'm Sakshi Batra, and on this show, I'm going to be discussing all about markets, which way are the markets really headed, and what should be investors doing with their money. And joining us will be a very special guest. But before I welcome him, let me quickly request all our viewers who are watching us on YouTube to like and subscribe to our channel. Hit that bell icon so that you can get notified whenever we add a new video, and stay connected with us through all our social media platforms. That's Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And also visit our website, money9.com, where in both in English and in Hindi, you'll get to read all the latest news articles on markets and on personal finance. And time now to introduce our guest to you. I'm going to be joined by a very special guest, veteran of the investment industry, Kenneth Andrade, founder and CEO of Old Bridge Capital Management, joining in on Market Masterclass with me. Hello, sir, and thank you very much for taking out time for Money 9. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us on our platform. So let me just first begin by understanding from you, sir, because this is your first interview with us. All our viewers are absolutely excited, elated. Of course, there's no introduction needed because you've been a veteran of the markets, investments. You've seen various market cycles, all of these decades that you've been into the markets. But help us understand, for all our viewers' benefit, that what made you, what pushed you to start your investment journey in the markets.
Hi, Sakshi. Thanks for inviting me to the show. Well, I've been investing over now for the last 20 years professionally, and before that, I've been an analyst with the market for extremely another 10 years before that. Starting off for myself, I think it's just the level of independence you get to implement a certain structure, size, and stay limited in terms of the kind of investors you want to align with, or the kind of investors you want yourself to align with. So that's what I'm doing. I have always invested in equities. I've been an equity portfolio manager, and that's the way we've brought together Old Bridge and a couple of professionals who have joined me in putting this space up.
Absolutely, sir. And we are elated to have you here to talk about and share, get some insights from you as to how should we understand which way are the markets really going. So help us understand, how are you looking at the markets right now? We've witnessed this sharp bull run right after the crash in March 2020. But off late, in the last 15, 20 odd days, we've been seeing that the markets are becoming a little volatile. There is some consolidation taking place, tight range of markets on a daily basis. So on the one hand, we have declining cases of COVID, which is a good thing. Again, increasing pace of vaccinations, very good thing. On the other hand, we're also seeing that the inflation is at record high levels. Indications from the US Fed about, kind of reversals in the interest rates also coming in. How big a concern is that for the markets right now?
So when you're investing, and I've been investing for a long period of time, I'm sure you have also. And if you go back into history, you've always had problems with the market, and at times the market seems extremely safe to invest in. Despite that, longer term, I think markets have always trended up. So just keep the horizon that you're not investing in stock prices. Okay, you're investing in companies and the underlying fundamentals of the business. And the good companies come through despite everything, including inflation, election results, demonetization, global financial crisis, the tech bubble, etc. So I think you got to keep that in mind. So markets might be at the all-time high. You coming off of bottom created by the pandemic, but yet things might look a little frothy. They always tend to be frothy, but you'll have to overcome all of this. So I'm just saying, don't get worried about corrections. Just make sure your portfolio is built of companies that have longevity. Remember, longevity is key. If the company is around for the next 10 years, you will definitely make money. So just
Absolutely.
and put your portfolio into place.
Absolutely, sir. So, but just like how you said that things are getting frothy, there is a whole talk about how valuations have hit the roof. The market cap to GDP is way above the average right now. So there is some concern on the valuation front. Are you also concerned about that? And would you say that perhaps on the markets after this bull run we have hit a pause button? Are there also any indications of retreating of the markets from these levels?
Well, near term, your guess is as good as mine. If I say frothy valuation, doesn't mean that the market is frothy right across from the top to the bottom. But one part of the market where you definitely see that there is very little money to be made, but it apparently has been making a lot of money is the primary market, the primary markets. And I mean, the IPO markets are somewhere pricing in valuation significantly higher than where the secondary markets trade. But that's not really happened. That's not really the first time it's happened. It's happened before. There are pockets which of the new age businesses that are trading at significantly higher premiums. I think I'm more of a traditional investor looking at cash flows and earnings, and in a lot of cases I see a lot of these companies trading at price to sales of between 15 and forever. So that's also a little bit concerning. So essentially it's the same thing. Don't get caught up with facts. Just look at companies that have been generating cash flows, and over a long term, they will definitely contribute to your portfolio.
Absolutely, sir. So, would you say that, at this point in time, what would you prefer to do as an investor in the current scenario? Would you prefer booking profits? Would you stay still fully invested in the markets currently because you are all about those companies that will sustain any kind of, down cycles as well?
Hmm. So I'm always been invested in equities 100% of my net worth. Okay, except for the liquid capital that I need for a day to day or for emergencies that you keep away. But I've always been an equity investor because that's an asset class that I understand very well. So always remain invested in an asset class that you understand very well. So if it's fixed income gives you an opportunity. If it's real estate gives you an opportunity. If it's gold gives you an opportunity. Net, stay diversified. Don't overemphasize on one particular asset, and understand your risk profiles. So there's no need to take out money. Yes, there's always need to take a little bit of profits off the table, but be very consistent with that.
Right. Okay. So understood that, it's okay if you want to take off some profits off the table and you feel comfortable with that. But going forward from here, looking at the markets, which way the cycles are now going to move, is it better to stick with defensives? Would you actually pick some value stocks right now? Share with us if there are any particular themes that you may be looking at tracking.
So in terms of where we are, I mean, a lot is changing on the economy, and a lot is changing in the marketplace also. We got to be careful. Like I said, you got to be careful where you invest in. We have the premise that if a company in an industry makes money, every company will make money finally. If the industry makes money, every company will make money finally. But we're also very cautious when too many of these businesses make enormous money.
Yeah.
So you have to avoid some businesses and you have to select some businesses. So, like I said, we're more traditional in our makeup. We like businesses that put assets on the ground, whether it is
Sure.
manufacturing assets, whether it is real estate, pharmaceuticals. As long as the price earning multiples of these businesses or the valuations of these businesses, I think price earning multiples is wrong. Is is
Hmm.
is is explainable, is sane.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
protect myself on the downside also.
Hmm.
So I think that's the direction that we are heading. A little bit traditional. What in the last day, what in 2004 to 2010 that we used to call brick and mortar. I think that's the place that we are in right now.
Right, understood that, sir. Now, I wanted to understand also from the flows perspective, especially with the foreign institutional investors. We've so far seen in the rally in 2020, some part of 2021 too, when it's been the liquidity that has been a larger support to the kind of rally that we have seen. After a month's gap, FIs have turned net buyers again, but I want to understand from you, are they here to stay? If they don't, what happens then? How should retail investors really take a cue from these kind of which way the flows are going?
Well, I'm not the most. I'm not an analyst on FIF flows, nor do I understand what they do or what they try to preempt. But like all investors, they try to buy, and they come here to make money.
Yeah.
So as long as that momentum is on, they will continue to be attracted to this
Hmm.
economy. And India offers to various investors a different proposition. We are a very large population. Uh, to some to some investors, A large population gives you a very large consumer format. To some investors, a very large population gives you competitive cost of manufacturing. So depending upon what flavor of investor you are, you have both options which are available, and that's what. And all of this is fairly transparent, right? We've probably got some of the best transparent companies in terms of corporate governance, in terms of balance sheets that are there.
Sure.
And all of this continues to attract investors, FIIs or domestic investors into all of this. So, so in net, India will have its share of long-term investors that will keep coming in. We've
Hmm.
got real solid assets. We've got real long-term demand because we are 1/5 of the world population, whether we want it or not. At points in time, it doesn't seem to be a great story to talk about, but at different points in time, it's probably the best story to talk about. So, like I said, money will get attracted. We've got our demographics in place. We've got our advantages that are in place. We've got to go out there and exploit it.
Understood. So also we've seen that in the recent past there has been a lot of discussion on way the commodities have rallied. What's your view there? You know, we have been talking about the super cycle in commodities, metal, steel stocks have had a dream run. Is this commodity space attractive to you? Are you positive about this? And are we in for a long haul in commodities, or is this done and dusted?
I don't know if you're in for a long haul in commodities. It's not my job to predict commodity prices, but I can just tell you that even if commodity prices remain where they are, or if they drop by 10%, the amount of cash flows that some of these businesses will make are enormous.
Hmm.
I'm not saying they're large, I'm saying they're enormous. They're 3x the
Yeah,
size of profitability they made in 2008 9, which was the peak years that they were in.
sure.
So I wouldn't discount the fact that they shouldn't be a part of everyone's portfolio. So don't look at steel prices saying steel is going up, so I should buy to steel stocks, or aluminum prices going up, so I should buy aluminum stocks. I don't think that's the way you need to work, because
Okay.
at every incremental price that comes in, profitability of some of these companies are expansive, very
Hmm.
expensive, and all
Hmm.
of this comes down to denominator. So remember, when you're buying businesses, again, I go back to the same premise. When you're buying business, you're buying them on the ability to generate profitability. Even at current prices, a lot of these companies are very, very profitable.
Hmm. Absolutely. One word about the earnings, what have you made about the earnings that have actually happened so far in Q4? We are at the end of this. And where are we in the earnings cycle for various sectors? Are we in for like a complete recovery there coming soon? Or it will take some more time because of the second wave, perhaps the third wave also hitting us there?
Well, just to answer that, you mentioned the Indian profitability cycle, if some of these numbers sustain themselves, has switched quite a bit. It,
Hmm.
if you have talked about commodity businesses, but one steel company in India would end
Hmm.
up making between 20 and 30,000 crores of profits. One company in India, which is equivalent, I mean, equivalent to all the profit of the FMCG industry. Okay, if you take out ITC's tobacco business, I mean, just
Yeah.
one company makes the entire amount of profitability of the entire FMCG business. Now that's saying a lot. So I think what we basically we basically aligning ourselves to is that the contributors to profit in the index or in corporate India uh, has completely changed. Okay, and that could probably also mean that there is a new earning cycle, or there's a new cycle of earnings that has started off with in the marketplace.
Hmm.
So I'm not. I am fairly optimistic. Okay, I just worry about being in the right place today rather than with being in the market today. I'm not worried about being in investing in equities, but I just want to be in the right place.
That's point well taken. Also, sir, what would you say about the small and the mid caps, the broader markets? They have continued to dominate the price action on these streets so far. But what's your view here? Is the time for making easy money? Is that over?
Uh, so they go through a cyclical trough at points in time, and they did so in 2018 and 2019.
Hmm.
Again, if you step back, they did the same between 2013 and 2014. Rather than
Hmm.
looking at it from a risk point of view, there are actually opportunities to invest in some of these names. Because always remember, some of the companies that are there in the indices today, they all came from
Hmm.
mid caps, right?
Hmm.
Okay, going into the next decade, a lot of companies that will come into the indices will be again mid caps. Okay, will come from the mid cap space,
Sure.
but it's a difficult space to tread because the probability ratio of you picking the right one is low,
Yes.
which is why you have to spend a lot more time in trying to get that right. So I've traditionally always looked at that part of the world, and I have built my career around it. And I won't say I'm just optimistic, but I'm sure that then the decade of probably 2025 to 2030, a lot of mid caps that you see today will be part of
Yeah.
the larger companies. So I would continue to focus out there, irrespective of where they are at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to be optimistic. I think at times like this, I'm sure most of the investors would be looking for cues from you too. Even if it is cautiously optimistic, they'll give them like, some hope of being there in case they're invested there. One or two last questions. One on the IPOs that you just talked about in your initial answers. Of course, we are seeing this space for brewing, in action. It attracts a lot of investors' interest, retail investors, they scout for getting some allocation in the kind of IPOs, and we are seeing this new age companies, string of them: Zomato, Nika, Paytm, Urban Company, Delivery, you name it. There's so many of them that are just lining up to hit the street. How are you looking at this space? Is there merit to look here, even despite the high valuations right now?
Oh, well, these are good franchises that have been set up in the last couple of years, but they're nowhere in line with what I would be willing to pay for them.
Okay.
Okay, they're nowhere in line with that. I have seen traditionally, and if I step back to 2006, 7, 8, 9, okay,
Hmm.
you had a spate of real estate companies that came through the marketplace to raise capital.
Hmm.
Okay, very few of them trade above their IPO prices. Okay, and that was a fad that started off at that point in time.
Hmm.
Today, I would I would just be cautious about it. I mean, forget listing gains and stuff like that. But in the medium term, also, I'd be cautious about how much money you will pay for these businesses. Look, our job as an investor, okay, is not to fund companies' growth. Is to effectively get a return from the company.
Yes.
Okay, and that can only be generated if they make some kind of cash flow or profitability. I am not a futuristic in. Uh, I am not a futuristic investor in what could happen. I need to see how it could be funded and whether they all self-funded. None of these businesses are funded, and I'd be
Hmm.
very cautious about how to approach some of these names.
Well, this is a very important and very interesting take that you have here, considering the fact that everybody would be rushing for this space. Help us understand then. All the viewers who are listening to you, investors who are listening to you, it doesn't align with your thought process of choosing the stocks because you have those concerns there. You put that out very well for our viewers to understand. Investors these days, they immediately feel this FOMO when they miss out on some sharp rallies. How do you deal with something like this?
I've seen it before, and I've made mistakes in the past with the same fear of missing out, right?
Uh, uh,
Okay, so once you've experienced it, experience only teaches you not to make the same mistake again,
got it.
right?
Which was that mistake, if you could point out? Help us answer.
Right through the decade. I think
Okay.
you go back to the tech boom, there were DSQ, Himachal Futuristic. I mean, Polaris was a company that listed at the height of the tech boom. And some of them don't exist, some of them are broken up, and you never
Hmm.
made money in a lot of them for an
Hmm.
extremely long period of time. Why don't you make money out of companies for an extremely long period? Because you pay too much upfront.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, look, when you go to buy a house, when you go to buy a car, you always want a discount. Why is when going to buy stock, you don't ask for a discount? Okay. Why are you willing to pay a premium just because it looks nice for 2030?
Very interesting.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I would just say be a little apprehensive of what for a business which
Hmm.
doesn't have a very long track record. A
Hmm.
lot of them don't make money. Okay. And I'm very sure that you will get it at your price I mean, not very distant in the future.
Absolutely, and that definitely rings a bell in minds of investors because we are seeing most of these companies are also be aware. We should be aware they are loss-making companies. So one should be definitely aware about all of this coming in. Just last question to you, sir, in case you can help all our viewers understand, the three top picks of yours. If you would help us understand the ways to approach the investment in equities, your three top ideas. How should one approach this?
I, I think what has worked for me historically is just buy companies which are completely out of favor. I mean, if a company is out of favor with the marketplace, you're getting it at a valuation which you can digest it at. Okay, and then you have to have a lot of patience. Okay, and that I think is what investors, or I would say investors lack. What most human beings lack patience.
Hmm.
At points in time, it takes 2 years or 3 years for you to incubate an idea, but in
Hmm.
the fourth year, it gives you a return which compensates you for the holding cost of the previous 3 years. So patience, valuation, or what you pay for it, and always buy a business with a discount. I think if you do some of these things that I've mentioned, you can never go wrong in the medium term.
Absolutely. Very well. Thank you very much for sharing those tips and speaking to us about all those market insights. I'm sure they are going to help all our viewers immensely as they get into their investment journey in equities. It's been an honor to speak to you, Kenneth Andrade. And thank you very much for speaking to Money9 and sparing your time for us for this very special Market Masterclass. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Market Masterclass for you, but we'll keep getting you all these interesting conversations with market veterans so that you can benefit with what is really working for you and for them in the markets going forward. So do stay tuned with us on to money9.com. That's our website. Do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that bell icon so that you can get notified whenever we add a new video, and stay connected with us through all our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. It will be great to have you there. Thank you very much for tuning in.